Happy 4th of July, everybody! I figured that Independence Day would be a pretty good day to introduce the centerpiece of my US milsurp collection. That would be this particular rifle, the US model of 1903 Rock Island Arsenal 1913. This rifle is entirely original to 1913. It has never been refurbished, it has never been upgraded. It was in fact brought home from the Great War by the man I bought it from almost 25, oh my God, close to 27 years ago now. Along with the rest of the gear you see here. The man was a member of the 77th Division. That was a New York division mostly. And better known for their involvement in the Lost Battalion. However, this particular gentleman was not involved in that. It was only a small part of the division. Now this rifle, you don't usually see them in this condition, mostly because Uncle Sam refurbishes his weapons every few years. When they start to show the slightest sign of wear, out goes the barrel, on goes a new one. Most 03s were refurbished by the time the 1930s rolled around. This one, however, has never seen that. Now, during the Great War, or after the Great War, it was much more an informal time. If a soldier wanted to bring home his weapon, nobody was really going to stop him from doing it. He could stuff it in his pack, he could stuff it in his duffel, simply walk away with it. And that is what this man did. He walked home with his full kit, and he never got rid of it. He kept it, sold it to me upon his retirement, and when he moved to warmer climes. He didn't have any children to leave it to, or anybody else who wanted it, so I had to sit for an interview, and I was allowed to buy them. Take a look at it. You'll see the markings on this, and you're going to see it's not re-blued or refurbished. A little bit of dust on there from me fooling around with it. Rock Island Arsenal. Low number receiver, obviously. The bore is in very good condition on this one. I don't know if they'll show up on the camera, but you can almost see the striping in the stock right there. The sling, it's a little delicate, but that is the actual sling he used during the Great War. The side hood is something I added. Just snaps on and off anyway. The bayonet, which coincidentally is also Rock Island, 1909. That's the original bayonet he carried during the war. His helmet. Now, that's his 10-pocket bandolier, complete with the ammunition still in it. And this is the cloth 6-pocket bandolier that soldiers were issued for extra ammunition. He brought this home as well. And while inventorying the cartridges inside, this is US cartridge 1918, I found something very interesting that you don't see too often. If you notice something here, the bullets do not have their tips. They've been scraped or ground off or filed off. Now this is a primitive way to make a dum-dum bullet. Highly illegal on the battlefield. This could have gotten you shot if you were caught with this by the Germans. It's an original clip, still has the tits on it. See if I can get the cartridge off the other side. I can show you the head stamp. Don't know if that's going to show up. Let me try some stronger light. Don't know if you can see that or not. That's 1918 US cartridge. Actual cartridges from the First World War. Still in the original pouches, bandoliers, original clips, just as they were brought home. There's this pistol, revolver, US 1917. His flag, which he acquired at some point, that's not the flag he brought home from the war, but he had a 48-star flag, and I ended up with that too. Now this rifle wasn't the only thing I bought from the man. There was another Springfield he also had that had he had acquired it from the estate of a friend who had passed in the early 1980s. Was pretty common to know World War I veterans that had passed on. The man I bought this stuff from was actually in his 90s at the time he sold it to me. This is a US Springfield Springfield Armory, model 1903. I don't know if it'll come up, but I'm going to try. 1910. This is another original Springfield. Well, it's original to when it was in the war. I'm pretty sure that handguard has at some point been changed. When or how, I don't know. But the rest of the rifle does appear to be original to the Great War. Whoops. You'll notice an odd thing I've never actually seen before in a Springfield is upside down here. But there's a 10 stamped in the stock, which I assume means 1910. I see no other reason for it to be there. But that's a rifle that was carried by a friend of his in the Great War. He did not carry it himself. The 1913 model here, I never did show you the barrel date on that, did I? Which I can show easily because I've highlighted it. This one he actually did carry during the war. This is an actual Great War rifle. I had the privilege of speaking with the man I bought this from for over an hour. He touched on a number of things of his service, places he'd been, the Argonne being one of them. He was wounded at least once in battle. He was a Purple Heart recipient. Obviously, he did not sell that to me. I wouldn't have accepted it if he had. I would have insisted that go to his family. You notice something about the bayonet that went with the 1910, and to a lesser extent is also on the 1909 bayonet. These were blued. They were blued bayonets. And now, this, is this the one? Yes, it is. You'll notice something here. This was issued in 1918, but originally this had 9 pockets. Oh, is this the one with the 9 pockets? Yes, it is. You can see how they've done a little bit of... I'm sorry, no. That's wrong. That's the other one. This is the one with the repair. He managed to rip it at some point, I guess, because you can see it's been repaired there. I have another bandolier that's a 9 pocket that I got from him also, but that I don't think... This was the one with the ammunition was the one he said he'd carried. The ammunition in this has never been out, except for me playing with it. It's actually been full of ammo, just as you see it. I didn't even take little bits of corrosion off it there, here and there, since he brought it home. And it shows signs of heavy use. This thing's been around. It's bleached. It's frayed a bit at the edges. The brass is tarnished. It's seen some campaigning, as has all of this equipment. This, of course, is a 1916 US barracks rod there for cleaning the 03s and later on the Garands. Half moon clips for the revolver. Now, he did not carry that revolver during the war, I don't think. I believe he acquired that later on. Why, I'm not entirely sure. Or it was one like one he carried. I don't know. I don't remember anymore, but the rest of the gear, however, you can see here we have the clip pouch. We have the leather holster. That, I'm pretty sure he did bring home with him. Got it somewhere. It was a little vague about where. I'm assuming a card game was probably involved, but I wasn't going to press it. When you're being sold something like this, you just shut the hell up and say, "Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir." Have a look at the other side. They fought hard at the Argonne. It was a costly and bloody battle, but it proved to the world that the American army was there to fight, and we were there to win. Look at that cartouche. How clear that is. You don't usually see that because it's been sanded 200 times doing refurbs. Well, now you know where the name Rock Island 1913 comes from. US model of 1903 was, of course, based on the Mauser 98. We stole the design from the Germans. Germans got kind of pissed about that, and they sued Springfield Armory. And Springfield had to pay, US government had to pay, for each rifle made. a little royalty to Mauser of Germany. This, of course, is the finest Mauser ever made. Extremely accurate rifles. They were the pride of the U.S. service right up until the eve of World War II. In fact, they continued in service with the United States Marine Corps well into World War II. As actual combat weapons, not just training rifles. The blade on that bayonet is 16 inches long enough to pass completely through a man's body. Now, there was a whole thing going on about low number receivers blowing up because of heat treatment problems. That may well be the case. Heat treatment was treated a little bit casually at both arsenals, and it was done by eye and all of this stuff, not very scientifically. But the few rifles that blew up in the trenches under extreme conditions. It was never really proven that these receivers were truly at fault in any of that. And in fact, Uncle Sam, while he did initially order that these receivers be withdrawn, continued to use these receivers to rebuild rifles well into World War II. I in fact have a 1905 receiver that was used to build a rifle at Springfield Armory in 1942. And the barrel on that one is very well used. So it was definitely around and used and had no trouble with its receiver. The 03 remained in service until 1936, when the M1 Garand replaced it, at least as the official first-line U.S. service rifle. And the 03 in itself replaced the Krag. The Krag, which of course was based on a Danish design, or was it Norwegian? I forget. In any event, it was found wanting after the Spanish-American War, and Theodore Roosevelt, who had been shot at by German Mausers, strongly suggested that the Springfield Arsenal come up with a new design, which they did. After the rifle trials of 1901-02, they selected, well, they didn't officially select the Mauser, they just simply stole the Mauser design and made their own rifle, which is what the 1903 is. And in 1906, they opened it up to the Spitzer bullet, the U.S. cartridge model of 1906, although otherwise known as 3006. It was originally 3003. But in 1906, they opened them up, went to the Spitzer bullet, something else we stole from the Germans. And from there on after, it was 30-06 cartridge. They also did away with a round rod bayonet that they used initially, and went to the more conventional blade bayonets, but that was earlier. And eventually this rifle became the US model 1903A3, which was just basically changes to the sights and some stamped parts. That really was it, and the stocks a little bit. But the US 1903 was in service for many years and is highly prized by shooters and collectors both today. And there you go. Happy Independence Day, everybody. And to all of our veterans out there, thank you for your service.